All right, so today's lesson we're going to go over something called intercepts. Right? It's going to be much better graphing than our T-charts or the table method because it's going to allow us to use less math, but we do have to do a little bit more thinking with intercepts than we did with table charts. So let's just jump into this. So I have a small coordinate plane. Remember, we have our y-axis is what goes up and down. We have our x-axis that goes left to right, right? So an intercept is simply a line that crosses over one of the axes. And more specifically, it is at the point. So that would be called an intercept. That's an intercept. That's an intercept. A line can go through two of them. That's an intercept. That's an intercept. So an intercept is basically any line that goes over one of the axes. And so we're going to go into and specifically give us some characteristics of what happens when a line crosses over the x-axis compared to when a line crosses over the y-axis. All right, so getting back to intercepts is I'm just going to basically divide this. Make sure you do this on your paper also. And we're going to talk about x-intercepts. I'm just going to abbreviate it. And y-intercepts. All right, so I'm just going to draw a small coordinate plane over here. And I'm going to highlight the x-axis on this one. Make the y-axis short. I'm just going to number real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, negative 4. All right? So again, an intercept is just a line that passes over the axis, and it's at that specific point where it touches it. I'm going to call this intersection A, and I'm going to call this intersection B. Okay? And we're just going to look at those points and see what we can see that x-intercepts have in common. So at point A, remember, it's a point, so it has to have two numbers associated with it. Well, if you look at the origin, to get to point A, we go backwards 2. So it's negative 2. But since it's on the x-axis, we don't go up or down. So it's a 0 for the y term. Right? B, again, we start at the origin. We just go over 1. So I put 1 because that's my x term. It's my ordered pair. But again, I don't go up or down. So my y term, or my y coordinate, is 0. So what I want you to do a little bit later on is I want you to fill in C and D. So I'm going to put, we'll call this one C, and we'll call this one over here D. Make sure that you do write these down in your notes. But again, what we're seeing is on an x-intercept, the y term should be 0. Okay? And that's going to be very important later on. All right. Now, going with the y-intercepts, again, let's draw, this time I'm going to draw a coordinate plane. We're going to highlight, though, the y-axis, make the x-axis short. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll put 5 on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5 at the bottom. Right? But again, if a line crosses over over the y-axis, the point at which it crosses is our y-intercept. And again, I'm going to label this one A, call this one B. You have A and B. So let's look at where these coordinates are. So here's my origin. Since I don't go anywhere, left or right, there's no movement, my x is 0, and I just go up 5. So my y is 5. Start back at my origin, and to get to B, oops, I'm sorry, I should do it right here. I just go down 1, 2, that's negative 2, but again, did I go anywhere side to side? No. So my first term is 0. My second term, my y term, is negative 2. All right, so I want you to label point C and point D. And pay attention to, when we're talking about y-intercepts, that the x term is going to be 0. And then recap on your x-intercepts, the y becomes 0. All right, so why do we want to learn about intercepts? Because when it comes to graphing, it's going to be less work. So if we review, let me start with first an equation of a line. So here is one, it's 3x plus 4y equals 24. I know this is an equation of a line because it has an x and a y. So the answer has to be a line, right? So don't write this part down. But under the table chart, we have to come over here, come up with an x term. I use my 3, 2, 0, negative 1. And you'd have to write this out 3 times. I'll have to go 3x plus 4y equals 24. 3x plus 4y equals 24. 3x plus 4y equals 24. And I'd have 3 different problems I'd have to do. I'd have to use the 2 in this one, 0 in this one, and negative 1 over here. So I have to work this out 3 times. If they give me a table that has 5 x's, then I have to write this out 5 times. Well, we're going to do a shortcut using our knowledge of intercepts. So I'm going to get rid of that table method. Take my equation, and what I'm basically going to do is using the intercepts to find the answer to this equation. All right, so the important thing is when we have an x-intercept, the y was always 0. On the y-intercepts, the x was always 0. And these are going to be very important since it's going to make our math much easier. So I'm going to take my equation. I'm just going to write it down twice. So here, 3x plus 4y equals 24. And then over here, 3x plus 4y equals 24. All right, so under the x-intercept, if the y becomes 0, so I read down my 3x, instead of y, I'm going to put a 0 right there. I'm going to put a 0 right underneath the letter y so you know where it came from. Well, anything multiplied by 0 is 0. So all I have is this 3x equals 24. Do a little bit of simple math. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. and x equals 8. Okay, so let's look at that. Come over here. Under the y-intercept, we're going to keep the y on the y-intercept, and we're going to get rid of that x, because that x becomes 0. So, instead of the x, I'm going to put the 0 in its spot. So make sure those are lined up so you know what's going to happen over here. Put my 4y equals 24. Now again, 3 times 0 is gone. So all I have left is 4y equals 24. Now, again, one-step equation, divide by 4, divide by 4, this y equals 6. And I'm going to show you, after I get up a coordinate plane, how I graph these intercepts. And here's the key thing. This is also called, in layman terms, the cover-up method. So you want to write this down somewhere, the cover-up. It's not very mathematical, but this is what I mean by the cover-up method. If you look at this equation, 3x plus 4y equals 24, on the x-intercept, I want to keep the x. So I cover up the y. What do I have? 3x, 24. And that's what we ended up with right here. Come over here to my y-intercept. I want to keep the y, so I cover up the x. And what do you see? My equation of 4y equals 24. So pretty soon you can skip writing out this step. But for right now, we're going to show that just so we know what happens to the different terms using the intercepts. All right, so over here in this little space, I'm going to create a coordinate plane. It's going to be a little bit closer together, so hopefully you can be able to see this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's my negative 8. 8. This is my x-axis. Don't get these mixed up with the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so there's my coordinate plane. Now, how easy is it to graph using intercepts? So remember, on the x-intercept, it's where a line passes over the x-axis. Well, over here, we know that our x equaled 8. Because that x equaled 8, I can simply go over to my x-axis, find the number 8. So I start at my origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now remember, if it's an intercept, the y term doesn't go up and down. So I put a dot right here at number 8 on the x-axis, because it's an intercept. Over at my y-intercepts, I do the same thing. I go y equals 6. So I come over to my y-axis, and I find 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I put a dot there. Now, remember, every time you make a point, though, there's actually 2 numbers. I know right here on the x-intercept, it looks like it just says 8. But remember, that's because the y is a 0. So technically, this is 8, 0. On the y-intercept, when the x is 0, this is 0, 6. So just remember when it does say y equals 6, that it's actually 0, 6, because it's an intercept. But we have our 2 points. Draw your line. That's your answer right there. And it's much less than having to do this 3 separate times and make 3 dots on the graph as you do with the table method. All right, so right now what we're going to do is I'm going to have you do a practice one. I'm not actually going to go over this. I want you to review the video, but you're going to have to do this one by yourself on your notes. So it's 2x plus 5y equals 20. Set it up with an